Have you ever stopped to think about how a single small decision can ripple through your life, changing everything in ways you never expected? Imagine this: a great monk, wise and serene, spends his final moments sharing one last piece of advice, a puzzling yet profound statement: never allow a cat in your life. At first, it might sound strange, even trivial. What harm could a cat possibly do? But as we dive deeper into his story, you'll uncover a profound lesson about the nature of the mind, our choices, and how even the smallest indulgence can snowball into life-altering consequences. This isn't just a story about a monk or a cat, it's about you and me. It's about the subtle traps we set for ourselves when we allow our desires and impulses to take control. By the end of this journey, you'll not only understand the monk's cryptic advice but also gain practical wisdom to master your own mind and navigate life's challenges with clarity and intention. Stay with us, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you approach your thoughts, decisions, and the life you want to lead. And it all starts with a monk, a cat, and a choice. Part 1: The Monk's Last Words. The setting was serene yet filled with an air of mystery. A great monk, revered by many for his wisdom and calm demeanor, lay on his deathbed. His followers had gathered in the monastery to bid him farewell, eagerly awaiting his final words. These words, they believed, would hold the distilled essence of his lifelong pursuit of enlightenment. What he said, however, left them puzzled and curious. Never allow a cat in your life. At first, there was a wave of confusion. Why a cat? What could this seemingly ordinary creature represent in the profound teachings of such a learned monk? The successor, a young and promising monk, was perhaps the most perplexed. His master's last words became an enigma he could not shake from his mind. After the monk's cremation, amidst the sacred rituals and chanting, the young successor found himself lost in thought. He tried to meditate, but the question lingered: why a cat? It didn't seem to align with the lofty principles and wisdom he had been taught. This simple statement carried the weight of an unspoken story. In the monastery, there was an elder monk who had served closely under the late master for many years. Though not chosen as the successor due to his old age, he possessed a wealth of knowledge about their master's life. Noticing the young monk's troubled demeanor, the elder monk approached him and gently asked, "Why are you so restless?" The young monk confessed, "I cannot understand our master's last words. Why would he say something as strange as not allowing a cat in one's life? It feels like there's a hidden meaning, but I cannot see it." The elder monk smiled knowingly. "Ah," he said, "you are right to feel this way. Our master's words were not just about a cat, they were about something far deeper. Let me tell you a story. One that our master never openly shared but that shaped the wisdom he left behind." And with that, the elder monk began to unravel a tale that would reveal the profound meaning behind the simple warning of a cat. It was a story of renunciation, simplicity, and the subtle yet powerful traps of the mind, a story that carried a lesson for all of us. Part 2: The monk's journey begins. The elder monk's voice carried a calm, reflective tone as he began recounting the tale. Our master was not always the revered figure you know. Like many of us, he once lived an ordinary life, bound by the ties of family, work, and the endless desires of the world. But one day, he felt an unshakable calling, a pull towards something greater. He left behind his wife, his children, and all his material possessions to embark on a journey of renunciation and enlightenment. He wandered through forests and mountains until he found solace near a small village. The villagers, awed by his presence, built him a simple bamboo hut so he could meditate and live peacefully. Our master had renounced everything: attachments, desires, and even basic comforts. His possessions were limited to a begging bowl and 2 pieces of clothing, which he would wash and wear in turns. For a while, life was serene. He would meditate for hours, and the villagers would bring him food in exchange for blessings and wisdom. But even in this simplicity, a challenge arose. Rats, drawn by the scent of food, began invading his humble hut. They chewed through his clothing and caused disruptions to his meditative practice. At first, our master tried to ignore the nuisance, seeing it as a test of his patience. But as his only clothes grew tattered, he realized he needed a solution. Seeking advice from the villagers, he shared his predicament. They, wanting to help their beloved monk, suggested an easy fix: why not keep a cat? It will drive away the rats. To our master, it seemed like a harmless idea. A cat was a living being, not a material attachment, and it would help him maintain his austere lifestyle. So, he agreed, and the villagers gifted him a cat. Indeed, the cat did its job well. The rats vanished, and for a time, the monk's life returned to peace. But then came a new challenge: how to feed the cat. It couldn't live on blessings and wisdom alone. Every day, the monk had to walk to the village to beg, not just for his own food but also for milk to feed the cat. This added responsibility began to disrupt his meditative routine. Seeking another solution, the villagers once again offered advice: why not keep a cow? You can have your own milk for the cat and won't need to come to the village every day. At first, the idea seemed logical. A cow would make him self-sufficient. So the villagers brought him a beautiful cow, and our master began caring for it. He learned to milk it and feed it grass. For a short while, this arrangement worked, but soon, the cow itself became a burden. It needed more care, more food, and more attention. To feed the cow, the monk had to ask the villagers for grass. Seeing his predicament, the villagers offered yet another suggestion: there's a widow in the village. She has no one to care for, and she'd be honored to serve a great monk like you. If she tends to the cow and the cat, you can focus on your spiritual practice. The idea seemed reasonable. After all, the monk's ultimate goal was enlightenment. And if someone else could handle these worldly responsibilities, it would free him to meditate. So the widow moved into the hut to care for the cow and the cat. She grew grass and crops nearby to sustain them all. And for a while, things seemed in balance. But as time passed, something subtle began to change. The widow was kind and devoted, and the monk, though committed to his spiritual path, found himself drawn to her companionship. They worked together in the fields, tending to the crops and animals. Slowly, without even realizing it, their bond deepened, and what began as a practical arrangement transformed into something more. The monk, who had once renounced the world and its attachments, now found himself living a life strikingly similar to the one he had left behind, a life of relationships, responsibilities, and desires. One day, the widow bore him a child, and as he held the infant in his arms, a startling realization dawned on him: I left my family and the world behind in pursuit of freedom. Yet here I am again, entangled in the same web of attachments. The elder monk paused, letting the weight of the story sink in before continuing. And that, he said, looking into the young monk's eyes, is why our master told you never to allow a cat in your life. The cat was not just a creature, it was the beginning of a chain reaction. Once you give your mind even a small allowance, it will slowly, silently lead you down a path you never intended to take. The young monk listened intently, beginning to grasp the profound truth hidden in the seemingly simple advice. But the elder monk's tale was far from over. The next part would reveal how this lesson applied not just to their master but to anyone striving to master their own mind. Part 3. The lesson behind the story. The elder monk's story left the young successor in deep contemplation. The image of their master's life slowly unraveling from a single, seemingly harmless decision lingered in his mind. How could something as small as keeping a cat lead to such a profound fall from renunciation? The elder monk continued, his voice steady yet laced with urgency. Our master's story is not just about him, the elder said. It's about all of us. The cat is a metaphor for the mind's ability to rationalize small indulgences. Once you give it an inch, it will take a mile. And before you know it, you'll find yourself entangled in a web of your own making. The young monk nodded slowly, beginning to connect the dots. The elder monk went on, you see, the mind is like water. It flows naturally toward the easiest path, often seeking comfort and avoiding resistance. But left unchecked, this flow can erode even the strongest foundations. The cat was a small compromise, a logical solution to a minor inconvenience. Yet it set into motion a chain of events that led to attachments, responsibilities, and ultimately, suffering. The slippery slope of small decisions. The elder monk paused to let his words sink in, then shared an insight that cut to the heart of the matter. The danger lies not in the cat itself, but in what it represents, a moment when we allow convenience or desire to override our discipline. Think about it. The cat led to a cow. The cow led to a widow. And the widow led to a family. At every step, there was a justification, a seemingly reasonable choice. But together, these choices pulled our master away from his true path. He leaned closer to the young monk. This is how the mind works. It whispers to you, just this once, or it's no big deal. But those whispers grow louder. What starts as a single exception becomes a habit. And habits, if left unchecked, shape your destiny. The young monk reflected on his own life, realizing how easily he, too, could fall into the same traps. The elder monk, seeing this realization, smiled knowingly. It's not just monks who face this challenge, he said. It's everyone. People make small compromises every day, thinking they're harmless. But over time, those compromises grow, becoming chains that bind them. Modern-day examples. To illustrate his point, the elder monk shared a few examples that even the young monk, with his limited experience of the world, could understand. The first sip of alcohol. Imagine someone who has never tasted alcohol. One day, they think, a single drink won't hurt. And indeed, it doesn't. But over time, they drink more often, first at celebrations, then to unwind after a stressful day. And eventually, it becomes a habit. What began as a harmless choice can spiral into addiction. The law of social media. Think of a person who downloads an app to stay connected with friends. They tell themselves they'll only spend a few minutes a day scrolling. But soon, they're spending hours, comparing their life to others and losing focus on their own goals. What was meant to bring connection ends up creating disconnection. A small indulgence in junk food, Or take someone who decides to try fast food once. It's quick, tasty, and convenient. They tell themselves it's just this one time. But slowly, it becomes their go-to meal. Over months or years, their health deteriorates, all because of a single, small decision they allowed to take root. The subtle power of discipline. The elder monk straightened his posture, his tone turning firm yet encouraging. The key to mastering your mind lies in vigilance and discipline. Do not let your mind dictate your actions. Instead, train it to serve your higher purpose. This is why mindfulness is so essential. It helps you recognize the moment when a small decision could lead to a larger consequence. He paused before adding, discipline doesn't mean living without joy or spontaneity. It means being intentional. It means asking yourself, will this choice bring me closer to my goals? Or will it pull me away? The young monk listened, his heart swelling with determination. He saw clearly now that the lesson wasn't just about avoiding cats or material attachments, it was about cultivating the strength to choose wisely in every moment. The elder monk concluded with a gentle smile. Our master's last words were his way of passing on the greatest lesson he learned in his lifetime. It's now your responsibility to carry that wisdom forward, and not just for yourself, but for all who look to you for guidance. The young monk bowed deeply, his mind clearer than it had been in days. The elder monk's words had unlocked a new understanding. The path to enlightenment is paved with small, intentional steps, and it's just as easily derailed by small, careless ones. Part 4. Practical Wisdom for Modern Life. The elder monk's story had illuminated a universal truth, the power of small decisions to shape one's destiny. As the young monk reflected on these teachings, he began to see parallels in everyday life, not just for monks, but for anyone seeking to live with purpose and clarity. The elder monk continued, shifting his tone to one of practical advice. Let me tell you how this lesson applies to modern life, he said. Because the principles are timeless, even if the circumstances change. Mindfulness as the foundation. First and foremost, the elder monk explained, the root of mastering your mind is mindfulness. Mindfulness means being fully present, aware of your thoughts, emotions, and actions without judgment. It's not about suppressing your desires or punishing yourself for indulgence. It's about observing your mind and recognizing the moment when a small decision might lead to unintended consequences. Practical exercise. The elder suggested a simple practice. Before making any decision, pause and ask yourself 3 questions. Why am I doing this? What could this lead to if repeated over time? Does this align with my greater purpose? If the answer to any of these questions gives you doubt, consider choosing differently. The ripple effect of small choices. Think of your life as a pond, the elder monk said. Every choice you make is like a pebble dropped into the water. The ripples start small, but they grow and spread, touching every part of the surface. He provided examples to illustrate this. Career decisions. A person might procrastinate on a project, thinking it's just one missed deadline. But over time, this habit erodes their reliability and opportunities, rippling through their career. Relationships. Someone might neglect small gestures of kindness toward a loved one. Over years, this neglect builds into resentment and distance, affecting the relationship profoundly. Health. Skipping one workout or choosing junk food over a healthy meal might seem insignificant, but repeated over time, these choices compound, leading to physical and emotional decline. These examples, the elder monk said, show how even the smallest actions have the power to shape your future. The role of self-awareness. The young monk listened intently as the elder spoke about the importance of self-awareness. You must learn to observe your mind as if it were a separate entity. When you notice it craving something, a distraction, a comfort, a shortcut, pause and question it. Ask yourself, who is in control? Me or my mind? The elder shared an exercise. Journaling, at the end of each day. Write down the choices you made. Were they aligned with your purpose? What could you have done differently? This practice will sharpen your awareness over time. Analogous stories to deepen the lesson. To further illustrate the lesson, the elder monk shared 2 additional stories. The weaver and the golden thread. There was once a skilled weaver who received a spool of golden thread, enough to weave a magnificent robe. But instead of using it wisely, he began adding small bits of the thread to everyday projects, thinking it wouldn't matter. By the time he attempted the robe, the thread was gone. Lesson: the misuse of small opportunities can cost you the chance to achieve something extraordinary. The farmer and the river. A farmer built his house close to a river, thinking the convenience of water would outweigh the occasional risk of flooding. For years, the river remained calm. But one stormy season, it swelled and washed away his home. Lesson: small risks ignored over time can grow into overwhelming problems. Strengthening the mind against temptation. Finally, the elder monk offered guidance on how to strengthen the mind to resist temptation and avoid the cat moments in life. Daily meditation. Spend time each day observing your thoughts without acting on them. This strengthens your ability to notice impulses and choose whether to follow them. Set clear intentions. Define your purpose and goals clearly. When your mind tempts you to stray, remind yourself of what truly matters. Seek support. Surround yourself with people who share your values and support your growth. They will hold you accountable when your mind wavers. The young monk's realization. By the end of the elder's guidance, the young monk felt a deep sense of clarity. The master's final words were not merely a warning but a call to action, a reminder to live each moment with awareness and intention. The elder monk concluded, "Our master's story was not about failure, it was about learning. Even he, with all his wisdom, was not immune to the mind's tricks. But he turned his experience into a lesson for us, so we may tread the path more carefully." The young monk bowed deeply, thanking the elder for his insight. In his heart, he made a silent vow to live each day with mindfulness, to master his mind, and to honor the wisdom passed down to him. The lesson of the cat would stay with him forever. Part 5. Relating the lesson to daily life. As the young monk absorbed the elder's teachings, he began to see how these lessons applied not only to his spiritual journey but also to the struggles faced by ordinary people in their daily lives. The elder monk, sensing his student's curiosity, elaborated further. The mind's subtle tricks. The mind is incredibly clever, the elder monk began. It doesn't always confront you with big, obvious temptations. Instead, it whispers small, seemingly harmless suggestions. It convinces you that one indulgence won't hurt, one shortcut is no big deal, and one compromise is a reasonable exception. But over time, these exceptions become the rule, and the path you once set for yourself begins to shift. He paused, then asked the young monk, "Have you ever felt your focus waver, even during meditation?" The young monk nodded, realizing how easily his thoughts strayed during even the simplest practices. That is the nature of the mind, the elder monk explained. But with awareness and discipline, you can train it to serve you rather than rule you. Examples from everyday life. The elder monk decided to share relatable scenarios to drive the point home. The trap of small lies. A person might tell a small lie to avoid an awkward situation, thinking it's harmless. But over time, lying becomes a habit. They find themselves creating more lies to cover the first, until it spirals out of control. This is how trust erodes, both with others and within oneself. Overspending for comfort. Imagine someone buys an expensive item they don't need, justifying it as a reward for their hard work. The satisfaction is fleeting, but the spending continues, another item, then another. Soon, they find themselves burdened by debt, all because of a series of small indulgences. Addiction to convenience. In modern times, people often seek convenience, fast food, quick entertainment, instant gratification. While these things seem trivial, over time they dull one's ability to work hard, delay gratification, and find true satisfaction in effort. How to break free. The elder monk leaned forward, his voice steady and reassuring. The good news is, just as small decisions can lead to negative outcomes, small, mindful actions can lead you back to the right path. Steps to reclaim control. Pause before acting. When faced with a decision, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, is this choice aligned with my purpose? Or is it just a reaction to fleeting desires? This simple pause can save you from countless mistakes. Practice gratitude. Often, the mind tempts us because we feel a lack, like we're missing out. Cultivate gratitude for what you already have, and the mind's tricks will lose their power. Build positive habits. Replace harmful behaviors with positive routines. For example, if you feel tempted to waste time, redirect that energy toward a meaningful task or meditation. Set clear boundaries. Be vigilant about where you draw the line. Recognize the cats in your life, those small allowances that could grow into major distractions, and keep them out. The parable of the stone cutter. The elder monk shared another story to emphasize the power of persistence and small, deliberate actions. There was once a stone cutter who labored day and night to shape a massive boulder. Day after day, he struck the stone, but it didn't seem to change. People mocked him, saying his efforts were futile. But the stone cutter persisted. On the 100th strike, the boulder split in two, revealing a perfect sculpture within. People marveled at the final strike, but the stone cutter smiled and said, "It wasn't the 100th strike that broke the stone, it was the combined effort of all 99 before it." The elder monk looked at the young monk and said, "Each small, mindful decision you make is a strike at the boulder of your life. Over time, those choices will shape you into the person you wish to become." The young monk's resolve. Hearing this, the young monk felt a surge of determination. He realized that his journey wouldn't be defined by a single grand moment of enlightenment, but by the countless small choices he made each day. He vowed to be vigilant, to recognize the cats in his own life, and to approach every decision with mindfulness and intention. The elder monk smiled, seeing the clarity in the young monk's eyes. "Remember," he said, "it's not about being perfect. It's about being aware. With awareness, even when you stray, you can find your way back." As the sun set over the monastery, the young monk sat in meditation, his mind calm and focused. He knew the path ahead would be challenging, but he felt ready, armed with the wisdom of his master. the guidance of the elder monk, and the strength of his own resolve. Part 6. The long-term impact of small decisions. The elder monk's teachings had deeply influenced the young monk. But the lesson of the cat had implications far beyond the monastery. It was a universal principle that could transform how anyone approached their life. Recognizing this, the elder monk decided to expand on the long-term effects of small decisions, showing how they could shape not only an individual's destiny but also the lives of those around them. The chain reaction of choices. Every decision you make, the elder monk began, is like planting a seed. Over time, that seed grows into a tree, and the tree bears fruit, good or bad, depending on the nature of the seed. A single seed may seem insignificant, but an orchard begins with just one. He paused, letting the metaphor take root in the young monk's mind. Now, consider this: if you plant seeds of discipline, mindfulness, and purpose, what kind of life do you think you will cultivate? And if you plant seeds of carelessness, indulgence, and distraction? The young monk nodded, understanding the profound simplicity of the metaphor. Our master planted a single seed when he allowed the cat into his life, the elder monk continued. He didn't realize it then, but that seed grew into an entire life of attachment, undoing the renunciation he had worked so hard to achieve. Examples of long-term impact. To illustrate the power of small decisions over time, the elder monk shared a few stories of how such choices had transformed lives, both positively and negatively. 1. The scholar who mastered his craft. There was once a young scholar who struggled with his studies. He wasn't particularly talented, but he decided to commit just 1 hour each day to reading and reflection, while others wasted their time on trivial pursuits. He stayed consistent, even when progress seemed slow. Over the years, that single hour accumulated into thousands of hours of study, and the young scholar became one of the greatest minds of his time. His success wasn't due to brilliance but to the small, consistent decision he made every day. 2. The merchant's greed. On the other hand, there was a wealthy merchant who decided to cut corners in his business. At first, it was just a few small lies to customers. Justifications like, "Everyone does it," or "It's no big deal." But as his wealth grew, so did his deceit. Eventually, his reputation crumbled, and his business fell apart. What destroyed him wasn't one large mistake, but the accumulation of countless small ones. Breaking the cycle. The elder monk then turned the focus back to the young monk. The most important part of this lesson, he said, is knowing that you have the power to break the cycle at any moment. Even if you've planted seeds of carelessness in the past, you can begin planting new seeds today. Over time, they will grow and replace the old. He offered practical steps for breaking negative cycles. Acknowledge the pattern. The first step is awareness. Recognize where your small decisions have led you astray. Forgive yourself. Don't dwell on past mistakes. Regret serves no purpose if it doesn't inspire change. Start small. Begin with one positive change. Commit to it daily, no matter how small it seems. Stay consistent. Remember the stone cutter. Success is not about dramatic effort but steady persistence. The ripple effect of positive choices. The elder monk then shared how small positive decisions could create ripples that extend far beyond oneself. When you make mindful choices, you inspire others to do the same, he said. Your actions can uplift your family, your community, even the world. He shared a story to illustrate this point. The lamp in the darkness. There was once a traveler who carried a small lamp as he walked through a dark forest. Though the lamp's light was faint, it was enough to illuminate his path. Along the way, he encountered other travelers who had lost their way. They saw his light and followed him, finding safety in his guidance. By the time they reached the edge of the forest, the traveler looked back and realized that his small lamp had guided dozens of people to safety. The elder monk smiled. "Your small, mindful actions are like that lamp. They may seem insignificant, but they can illuminate the path for many." The young monk's commitment. The young monk, inspired by these stories, felt a renewed sense of purpose. He realized that the lesson of the cat wasn't just a cautionary tale, it was a blueprint for how to live a meaningful life. By mastering his mind and being vigilant about his choices, he could create a life of purpose, free from unnecessary attachments and distractions. He bowed deeply to the elder monk. "Thank you for your wisdom," he said. "I will carry this lesson with me and strive to live each day with mindfulness and intention." The elder monk placed a hand on his shoulder. "Remember," he said, "it is not perfection we seek, but awareness. With awareness, even when you falter, you will find your way back to the path." As the young monk walked away, he felt a sense of clarity and calm. The lesson of the cat had transformed his understanding of life, and he knew it would guide him in every decision he made moving forward. Thank you for joining us on this journey of wisdom and reflection. The story of the monk and the cat teaches us a timeless truth: the small decisions we make today shape the lives we live tomorrow. So, take a moment to pause, reflect, and choose wisely. If this story inspired you or made you think differently, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What small changes will you make in your life to master your mind? Let us know in the comments below. And don't stop here. Subscribe to the Path to Buddhist Wisdom for more stories, lessons, and insights that will guide you on your path to mindfulness and enlightenment. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Together, we can build a community dedicated to living with purpose and intention. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. May you find peace, clarity, and wisdom on your journey.